begin with this one? If you're familiar with the channel, if you've been here before, if you follow me on any of my socials, you may have seen I did a straight out of theatre reaction Wednesday evening, where I was so lucky to be able to go to the cast and crew screening in London. That was just an incredible evening all round. The people I got to meet, the joy of actually seeing this film in that environment, surrounded by people that love the franchise so much and surrounded by people that are in the movie and made the movie. And that was just something I'll never forget. And I came out of the film completely overwhelmed, positively overwhelmed with what I just saw. And it's so much to take in when you see it for that first time. I don't think you can genuinely collect your thoughts properly to articulate, or at least I can't. Cleverer people probably do and have, but I couldn't collect my thoughts enough, process what I've seen, what I experienced, how I felt. And I knew for sure that I would need to see it again just to kind of put things in order and kind of work out how I felt. I knew how I felt, as in here, but just to articulate and talk about what I've seen and what I enjoyed and why I enjoyed it, I needed more time. Today is Friday the 22nd of March. I've seen it twice more. I saw it this morning and I saw it once more again this evening, and it does just get better and better every time you watch it. And it's one of those ones where the first time you see it, you are just so dazzled by what you're watching that you miss so much. And watching it again and again, I think there's going to be so much we're going to keep referring to and new quotes that we're going to start saying out loud, and just little throwaway lines where this is going to become, you know, it's part of the franchise now and it's part of our modern day history already. So that being said, I want to do a full review of my thoughts. I'm going to try not to make it too long. I know it's just me rambling on, so I don't want to outstay my welcome. What do you mean too late? That's rude. You can't say too late. Come on, give me a chance. But this genuinely just was a joy to watch, and it's a gift. It's a gift to all us fans, and I think it's going to be a gift to cinema goers everywhere. I will warn you now, obviously I've seen it. I'm going to be going into detail, so this will be spoiler ridden throughout. So if you haven't seen the film yet, or you're worried about having the film ruined for you before you get a chance to see it, do not watch this video. So where do we begin? We begin with a prologue, which we've never had before. 1904, New York, an opening passage from a poem by Robert Frost, Fire and Ice, setting the scene for what's coming up next. So we're 120 years earlier than what we have present day. We have firefighters entering the Manhattan Adventurers Society, if I remember that correctly, and everything's frozen. And Fitz starts to hit the shan. We have the orb begins to fluctuate, and we dive straight into the adventure. This was a new take on the teasers that we've had, certainly in the first two films. We didn't really get it with Afterlife, but those pre-credit teasers where we have a haunting situation and that theme tune kicks in, this was kind of a variation on that, and it was a perfect scene setter for what we had moving forward. Then we jump straight into the family dynamic of the sewer dragon chase. We're thrown straight back in there with the Spenglers and Mr. Gruberson in the Ecto chasing that sewer dragon. Just a big fun opening. We get Phoebe hitting us with a joke straight away and her signature one-eyed blink that I can't do. Trevor insisting that he's 18 now and is all grown up, a theme throughout the rest of the movie. And just a fun action opening for this film. Just throws you straight in there. And everything that kind of Afterlife was building to, that first time we saw the proton pack getting fired and then the gunner seat. It's the norm now. It's the norm now. And it's just awesome to watch. But then, of course, we do get the drone trap. So something new for all the tech heads out there. But as the story moves forward, it's clear there's very much a theme that's developing, in that each of the characters seem to be wanting to find their place in the world, or some sort of definition as to what their role is, what their life is now. Whether it's a young 15-year-old girl who's too young to she saved the world before, and she's clearly older than her years, but her age limits her, and she's grounded, and she doesn't know what her role is going to be moving forward, certainly for the next 3 years anyway. And there's tensions between her and her mother. She calls her mother Callie, right at the very beginning there. So you can see there's that distance there. And Carrie Coon as Callie is fantastic, but there's some moments in this where she is just like the worst mum ever. Trevor telling her there's something in the attic, and she's like, well, you're a man now, go and deal with it. And she's scrolling through her phone. It's kind of quite indicative of someone that's been bringing up a family alone for so long, and just sometimes just wants to have that little break, that rest. And then we have Gary Gruberson, part of this family now, but still not knowing what his role is, what his boundaries are, and his relationship, particularly with Phoebe. He's trying so hard to bond with her, and there's some beautiful moments there where obviously he doesn't know whether he can step over a particular line, and he feels for her so much, and I think he respects her so much, to the point where he's sabotaging his own proton pack just to give her a chance to kind of fix it and be useful, to a whole speech where he's just talking to a door, and it's so heartfelt, and she's not even on the other side. No pun intended for a scene later in the film. And just that struggle there, it's very human and very heartfelt, and it's kind of, those beats are the emotional cause of the film. We have the same with Ray, days gone by, his golden years gone by, and just that longing to be involved again. And he's very much sort of retired and grounded also. And there's a beautiful scene just even with the Ecto going past his shop window and him looking out fondly, and kind of a big smile on his face, like it was like pride, but just kind of very reminiscent of those days gone by. It's just beautiful to see. Beautiful to see. Have to say, Dan Aykroyd in this film is just note perfect. He's a note perfect Ray Stantz. He's an older man now, and somehow he's managed to capture that enthusiasm of Ray from the 80s in this older body, and he gives one of the best performances I've ever seen him give. Really, I've seen him in so many films, and he always plays a kind of a variation of a certain type of character, and very quick talking and very authoritative and very sort of commanding, and just we know his like speech inflections and kind of how he delivers some of those lines. But here it's just, there's elements of that where he gives all the techno babble and all the stuff that Ray would have come out with 40 years ago, getting excited about the orb, the devil's testicle, and all this other stuff. It's just an incredible actor. I want to say underrated, but I don't think we underrate him. I certainly don't. But this film really gives him an opportunity to shine. And there's a scene between him and Winston on a stairwell after the whole library scene where things just go nuts, and the lions, you've seen it in the trailers, you've seen it in the film if you've already seen it obviously, but the lions have come alive, they've chased the possessor ghost, and him and Winston have this, I want to say argument, but it's not really. Winston's trying to protect him, he loves him, he's trying to look after him, and it's just, he's shouting at him to shut up and listen, and you've put these kids in danger, we can't do this anymore, we're too old. And Ray's just like, I know I'm old, but I'm not. I love this. I don't want my golden years to be anything else but this. And it's one of the most powerful scenes we've seen ever in a Ghostbusters film. Just this stairwell, these two actors, and they proper brought it. And it's just a real wow moment. And talking of appreciating actors, just the presence that Ernie Hudson's got in this film. When we first met him in the original, he was someone that just wanted a steady paycheck and he'd do anything. And now I'm sure they said he was a billionaire. I can't remember if they said he was a billionaire in the movie or some of the behind the scenes stuff I've watched. They've said he was a billionaire. And he acts like he's a billionaire. He's still Winston, but he's got this authority about him, this command about him. And there's times where he's, telling Phoebe off in the police station. He's telling Ray off in the stairwell. And he's very clear that he's good at making decisions and just good at taking charge. And even at the end of the film, when everything's all done and dusted, dealing with Peck, again, he takes charge and he turns the situation to his advantage and he manipulates the situation and has to get Peck on side. Peck wants those votes, so he gets on side. But Ernie Hudson is brilliant in this film. There's not a lot of screen time for him, I don't think, really. It didn't feel like there's too much. But when he was there, the impact was just so felt. Just powerhouse performance from him. And say, Aykroyd. Wow, yeah, something else. Then we get to Venkman. Venkman's opening scene in the film, very evocative of the opening scene where we met him in the first one, and he's interviewing Kumail Nanjiani's Nadeem Razmati, and he's got the colander on his head, and Bill Murray's just testing him, asking him all these awkward questions and throwing pens at him. And yeah, there was just the opening question, and when Nadeem had answered it, I can't remember Venkman's response, but it was so twinned with what was happening in that opening scene. Not a copy, not even an homage, but it brought it all back, and there was that kind of that wry sort of naughtiness, sort of devilness about Venkman that we all kind of loved. That was there, and it was just a joy to watch. Pete Venkman in this film wasn't in it so much. We had the initial introduction scene, and then he appeared again for the final showdown. But what a presence! And he was Venkman. He was Venkman. The sarcasm, the one-liners, it was all there. Ray makes that announcement of not smoking since the 90s, and Venkman just giving him that proud of you then, proud of you now, just kind of aside, and Ray trying to explain how they're going to save everyone by reversing the containment unit, but then him just screaming at Ray, just shut up with the explanation, just do it. Yeah, Venkman was definitely back. I said previously on a live stream that we were talking about Venkman, and I think I made a comment about Afterlife and how I felt he was a little bit more Bill Murray than Venkman. And I think afterwards I was thinking that sounded like it was a negative. It felt like it had a negative connotation about it, and I didn't intend it to be that way at all. Give me Bill Murray any day of the week. But it's just the scene that they had. He had his banter with Gozer, but it felt, we were just like, that's Bill Murray. And we didn't get a chance to kind of see that more sarcastic and darker side of Venkman, the kind of that naughty guy that we love. And I felt here we got all of that, and it was the Venkman that we knew from those first two films was back again, like I said, albeit older, but we had Peter Venkman, we definitely had Ray, we got this new improved Winston. It just meant so much to see those guys on the screen and to have them be these characters again. Then if we're still going on about the OGs, we've got Annie Potts back as Janine. She's got a great sense of humour about her, and it's just that kind of world-weary secretary that we certainly had in the first film that they kind of went away from a fair bit in Ghostbusters 2, and made her more like the cartoon version of Janine. But here, just some of the conversations he had with like Gary Gruberson, when he's like asking her if it was, what was going on at the lab. What did he say? Was it top secret underground Ghostbusters stuff? And then she's walking up the stairs going, yeah, Gary, it's top secret underground Ghostbusters lab stuff. And he's like, tell you what you need to know. And she's note perfect. Of course, then we've got Lucky, who's got an internship at the Ghostbusters headquarters in the lab, helping Lars Pinfield, James Acaster's scientist down in the lab there. And she has a few core scenes here, some good action scenes, trying to take on Garaka herself. And then there's scenes earlier in the film where they're trying to open the orb in the lab, and that's a really pretty tense scene when that all goes wrong, and like the plasma fields all go down, the ghosts start to escape, and we've got that red light, and it's some real genuine tension there. And for all those people that just kind of were bemoaning the fact that she didn't really do much in the last film, I think she has a lot more to do here, and she's kind of a part of the crew, and she's helping Lars, and really bringing something to the company. So it's great to have Lucky back in this one. I'm glad they figured out a way to kind of organically have her there. And the same with Podcast. I'm not quite sure if it's quite so organically, but wow, Podcast is something else in this film. Again, doesn't have too much to do here. He's got a full scene with Phoebe when they go to the library. But a lot of the time he's Ray's sidekick, and we first meet him alongside Ray when they're doing their own, it looks like they're doing some psychic YouTube channel, and prompting Ray to say like and subscribe. By the way, do that whenever you want to. It's a joy to see those two paired up, and just every line delivery that he's giving Logan Kim is just so good. I'm not sure what he did Afterlife, and I think he was in a Walking Dead series, which I haven't seen yet, but his performance is just so spot on, and his comic timing is so good. And there's moments where he just made me laugh out loud, where they're with Patton Oswalt in the bottom of the library, and he's going to call another scientist, and he puts his finger on the receiver and says that scientist is already dead. It's just like, what the hell? It's so funny. And then the moment on the bike as well, where Phoebe's trying to get him to charge the gun back up, and I can't remember what he said, but it was just like this sort of like expression as he's pressing these buttons, and it's just so I'm getting too excited. All I'm doing is reliving moments of the film rather than talking about the film as a whole. But it's just, there's so much to enjoy in this that as soon as you start travelling down memory lane, it's today, you talk about the film and you start reliving everything that made you happy about it. And like an excited child, I just start blurting and sharing it out with you. So I'll try and rein that in a little bit. So then we come to Kumail Nanjiani's character. It's just bizarre. I think he's this film's like Lewis or Janosch. He's already possessed. He's got a special power. Originally before we had the Key Master, we've now got the Fire Master. And the thing I love about his character, Nadim, is that all the time he's there. He's always on the make. But then when all this stuff is happening and just all these crazy events are going on around him, he's just kind of sitting there like, what the hell is going on? And he's just standing back while these characters are running around doing this, and he's just like, what's happening? He's kind of outside of the situation looking in. We're watching it as a viewer and just accepting of it. There's a scene with Trevor and I think Lucky with him, like, don't worry, we'll keep you safe. And he's like, could one of the adults also come and help? It's just the ludicrousness of the situations he's pointing out to us constantly. And it's so good. So good. And then he kind of gets his moment at the end as well. He's just a really great addition to the film as a whole. For all the fun, the adventure, the comedy, the scares, we have to talk about the soundtrack for the film as well. I purchased it first thing this morning, so I've been listening to it in the car to and from the cinema. Obviously heard it in the film itself. Superb. It's such a triumphant score. And we've got elements of the original Elmer Bernstein score still there. And it makes it feel like Ghostbusters. People complaining about keep reusing the Elmer Bernstein stuff. I saw it before with the Afterlife soundtrack. A few comments about this one already, and it's the Ghostbusters theme. John Williams' Superman theme. It's iconic. It's used in those Superman movies. This is Ghostbusters. That theme stays. Bernstein's score stays, you know, and just these new takes on it are just fantastic to listen to. It's like, you know, Jaws films. You go through the Jaws soundtracks, there's variations on that main theme. It happens throughout all these different franchises. But like I said, it felt like a very triumphant score. It's very energetic and very charged. And there's elements in some places of like Bernard Herrmann's Psycho. There's bits of that in there. And there was bits of like John Williams' Jaws. I felt there was moments like that. I heard this dun 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 dun. Not to say they're copying those scores, but it evoked those memories. And it's just such a fun time to hear that accompanied with these amazing visuals and these incredible set pieces that we're getting. It just brought so much to the film. Rob Simonson's score for Afterlife was very much this like sweeping, beautiful, romantic piece that was just, it's stunning to listen to. And again, we had elements of Bernstein's score throughout that made it feel like Ghostbusters, but it was just very sweeping and, like I said, like romantic. And Dario Marianelli's it has elements of that, but it's just also just so very bombastic and supercharged. But then there are moments. There's the scene where Phoebe's playing chess, and the piece of that's on the soundtrack. It's beautiful harp music, and it evokes Dana's theme from the first one. There's very much elements of that. I know Peter Bernstein worked alongside Dario Marianelli for this, and so I wonder if that's where that kind of came from. But it was just this very beautiful melodic sort of harp that, yeah, it's just, you know, the opening of Dana's theme, it brought back that, and it was just really beautiful to listen to. So again, the score is another winner. I've got it on digital so far. I have it pre-ordered on CD. I'm hoping they'll do a vinyl release further down the line that I can get hold of and keep with all my others. But yeah, the score was absolutely superb. Watching the film as a whole, it's very evident from what we've seen in the massive amount of trailers and TV spots that we've had that there is so much cut out of this film. So much cut out of this film that they released as advertising material. That it'll be interesting to see what deleted scenes, if any, that we get when it comes out on physical release. The scene on the rooftop with Paul Rudd and everyone all in their red coats and giving the ho 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 ho, not there. Venkman, you know, what did you do back in the day? You know, went home, had a shower, had a shave. That was in the trailers. Not there. Lucky in her fight with Garaka, and that whole scene in the opening, the first ever trailer we got, I think it was, where she got frozen and we saw her eyeball glass over and everything. Not there. And there's lots of other little beats throughout. So it's very interesting to see the difference between when we're getting all the advertising material and how the editing process has streamlined the story to an extent where such amazing visuals and one-liners and everything were eventually kind of cut out. And it's quite interesting to see as well, the red jackets have been such a big thing for the fan community for the last few months, ever since that first trailer and that ho 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 shot with all of them on the roof, all wearing them with the the blue square light, LED light on them. Phoebe wore one for a few seconds, and then Lucky was the only person to wear another one when her and Trevor were on the roof. No one else had them on in the film. They were hardly ever featured. So that's, again, it's quite a difference to see how things are originally conceived compared to what we get right at the very end. So it's just really interesting to me, those changes that took place there. Frozen Empire has taken the franchise and is a franchise. I see people arguing online whether this is a franchise. No, it is a franchise. It's taking it in a whole new, fresh direction. And we all said before, and the cast have said and directors said about how much they were influenced by the real Ghostbusters cartoon series, and it feels very much like that, a live action cartoon. There's even kind of little moments. It's, how do I describe it? It still feels like an 80s movie, an 80s family fun comedy, but with present day sensibilities, present day special effects and production values. But it has this like warm 80s feel. And Yeah, like I said, like a live action cartoon, and that's not any disservice to it whatsoever. It's so fantastic now, and we've got these little comedy asides. We flip back a couple of times, once near the very beginning of the film, and then once a little bit later on. These two cops sitting in this police car. The first time they Sewer Dragon and the Ecto-1 racing past, and should we call it in? It's like, nah, they got it covered. And then later on, when everything's frozen, should we call? Yeah, let's call this in. And it's just, that feels like something I would have seen in the real Ghostbusters straight away, or something that we would have seen in like an 80s comedy. And it's so innocent and pure and just joyous to watch. Everything about this film I loved. I loved. And while we're taking it in a new direction, of course, it's kind of giving us fans what we want, and it's very much, well, it's not very much reflective of the past, but we've still got our Easter eggs in there. And once and for all, we can confirm that Ghostbusters 2 is canon. There was never any doubt. What did they call it? The Statue of Liberty debacle of 1989? It was something like that. It actually shown a clip of Ghostbusters 2 on the TV. And then we had the Ghostbusters cereal advert, and then even crazier, a clip of the Ray Parker Jr. video with them, down Times Square, from the music video. And it's like, so that's all canon. That's all happened now. That's real in the Ghostbusters universe. And it's just like, it's mind-blowing to watch. Mind-blowing to watch. And of course we had the Library Ghost. We had that. We got Slimer back. The effects for Slimer. I mean, throughout actually, the practical effects that we have in this. Obviously it's a lot of CGI for all the ice effects and everything. And some of the cityscapes that we see. But Slimer, the model for that is absolutely beautiful. Stunning. Beautiful. Just hats off to the team behind that. And I've seen pictures of the model for that online, behind the scenes photos of it, the cast posing with it. And it's kind of, it's a real life model that's the closest we've ever had to the 1984 potato onion head. Potato? The onion head. Why did I say potato? I'm thinking of Pukey probably. But it just looks fantastic. And particularly the scene, I mean, there's a few encounters with him with Trevor in the loft space, but the scene where the pizza goes across the table, the possessor's in the pizza, and Slimer just rushes up and eats it and stuffs it in its mouth. We're right back in the Sedgwick Hotel again, where he's next to that table, and just the puppeteering and the movement and everything, it's there. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. We have a whole series of other ghosts in this. The Possessor Ghost, the Phosphor Ghost, is that what they called it? It was named in one of the adverts. I think it was the one that tried to get out when all the plasma shields all went down. This larger one that was coming out in the wall. But the Possessor Ghost, that had a major role, that little ball of red light that was kind of pinging around. I don't know what happened to the Possessor in the end. He landed in the pizza and then was eaten by Slimer. So is that it? Was he consumed by another ghost and that's him gone? Or did I miss something? That's bizarre. I haven't talked about Melody yet. Emily Allen Lynn's character in this film that was kept secret for so long. There was lots of people suspecting she was going to be a ghost. And indeed that came to fruition. I have to admit, when I first saw the film, I didn't know, I wasn't 100% sure how I felt about her character and her through line, because it just wasn't expected, and it was something completely new, and it's something they kept secret. And it's always an odd one for me when I'm watching a Ghostbusters film for the very first time. And I say that particularly just about the last two entries, because you grew up with those first two, and if you're like me, you know them so well, and they're comfort blankets, and you love them because you know the line that's coming up next. You know all these moments, and you've watched them so many times that it's a real comfort to watch. So when you're watching a new film and not knowing what's going to come next, there's kind of an element of anxiety and nervousness that goes through you all the time, because you don't know what's going to happen, and there's a fun in that but there's an anxiety in that because you you love it so much, and you kind of, it hits you differently watching it for the first time. And I have to say now, after seeing it 3 times, the whole melody arc and the storyline hits a lot more. It certainly did even on the second time. The relationship between her and Phoebe landed for me, and it was an escape for Phoebe with everything that she was going through, her loneliness, and having this friend that was there that ultimately wasn't to be trusted at some point along that friendship. It landed for me. And that certainly the second time, where we got the line about the fabric of the universe towards the end, and they sort of said goodbye, it hit me, and I could feel my eyes sort of glassing over. But initially it kind of felt almost kind of a little bit out of kilter with the rest of the film. But I'm happy to kind of have that out of my system now, and already Frozen Empire is on its way to comfort blanket territory, where I know that I'm loving every moment of it, and I can see the reasons for choices that are made, and kind of every element of it feels justified. As for Garaka, the new big bad, completely different entity than what we've had before. You know, we had Gozer twice, obviously, and Vigo, and Garaka is definitely something we would have seen in the real Ghostbusters, and to have him in live action form and be that dangerous, the moment he possessed Phoebe's spirit and that eye change and the chanting, pretty terrifying, and all the build-ups that we had for him coming. Garaka was coming. There was these crazy drone swoops. It could have all been computer generated, but it was that good, couldn't really tell. But these swoops through the street and these chants going, and it was so Evil Dead. It felt straight out of Evil Dead, this like charging, racing through. We had this path of ice building, and this evil presence was coming. It was coming, and it was dangerous. And from when he showed up in the lab, just those 2 eyes appearing in the darkness, to the final showdown, it was like a genuinely scary villain. I can see young children being pretty bloody terrified by Garaka. There's been a little bit of commentary out there about it. It felt like that Garaka, the showdown was kind of over too quick. And I had a little bit of element of that when I watched it for the first time. We kind of got to that third act and things got resolved and they had their battle against him. But it felt more played out again watching it the second and third time. It felt more, I don't know, I mean, Vigo is the only one that we saw throughout the whole film pretty much in Ghostbusters 2. Gozer we only ever got at the end, and then obviously back for Afterlife with a bit more of a presence. So it's kind of in keeping from what we've had before. But Garaka was truly a force to be reckoned with. There was an element, I was talking to somebody online today, and they made the comment, which I think is valid, that for an entity that was meant to be in charge of a whole army of ghosts, had control of all the ghosts, it's like, why didn't he call upon them for a bit of backup in that final battle? And that's probably a valid question to ask. But at the end of the day, I want my heroes to win. I want more films. I don't want them all frozen and dead, and we get no more Ghostbusters films. So I'm happy it went the way that it did. And a great showdown. And again, it was kind of giving Phoebe that usefulness again. Her idea to plate elements of the proton pack. I can't remember what she actually did, but giving it that brass coating, that alloy, and creating that new ion stream that could attack Garaka. It was again this 15-year-old girl that everyone was dismissing had the plan, had the idea, saved the day again. And it kind of just exemplified what it means to be a Ghostbuster. It's not about what age you are, it's not about what sex you are. Anyone can be a Ghostbuster. Well, maybe not anyone, but what I'm saying is, if you've got the tools and you've got the talent, the world is your oyster. And again, that's what being a Ghostbuster was all about. It's inspired all of us kind of 40, 50-year-old adults from our childhoods. It's a film we've seen as our childhoods, and it's given us dreams and hopes and such joy over the years. And just, you see children these days that are dressed up still, and it's just something to hold on to. It's no small thing that we get all these cosplay groups all over the world, with their own patches, all these different cities, all these groups that go out every weekend, drive all over the country, drive wherever, and do all these charity events, raise money, visit kids in hospitals, and it's just Ghostbusters. I'm getting too deep now, but Ghostbusters really is that kind of, just being a Ghostbuster is that beacon of hope and goodness. And just, I am getting too deep now. I'm going off on a tangent. But I don't know, it just means that much to me. It means that much to me as a film franchise, as each individual film. I'm just completely in love with it and everything about it and how it makes me feel. And the fact that I'm kind of going down that road after watching this new entry just means that the film's worked and the film's up there. It's it's a complete and utter joy. As a whole, the film just worked so well for me, and like I said, the first time I watched it I was completely overwhelmed. I knew that I loved it, and I could feel my heart swelling the whole time that I watched it. And then seeing it again today, it stands up, it's there, I can put it up. I don't think I was ever not going to, but it's going to live alongside all those others. And it was, like I said, it's just a gift of a film. By the time we get to that end scene and they win the day, and we've got the crowd scene around the firehouse, a crowd scene that includes some UK Ghostbusters, I should add. Keep an eye out for the SOS Ghostbusters if you're familiar with those guys. Amazing. I sat with them and watched the film on Wednesday night. I sat with those guys and they were pointing at the screen and seeing themselves, and now it's just watching it today, I'm just watching them again and again and again, and it's just so good to know that they were there, and so funny to see, and just what a dream for those guys, all the hard work that they put in. Now they're part of Ghostbusters history. Incredible. But by the time we get to that end scene and the theme's playing and somebody shouts to Walter Peck, what did they say? How about you thank them, Dickless? Just have that thrown in there, and a brief exchange between him and Venkman, and kind of, they saved the day. Everyone saved the day, saving the day. It was just everything to me, and we were there. We were, we've got a new Ghostbusters film. I think I'll leave it there. I was going to try and do this in 10 minutes. That hasn't worked out, has it? That hasn't worked out at all. I got carried away. I've rambled. If you're still here, thank you. But yeah, I'll draw this to a close. It's not so much a review of the film, I'm thinking now. I mean, it is. But my review, I think, was always going to be a positive one. I'm not a film reviewer. I'm not going to be critical about something that I haven't got anything to be critical about. Yeah. The cat's just walked in, so she'll hit the camera, so I'll need to hold her for a bit. What I'm trying to say is I think this review is just really telling you how it's made me feel, how this film has made me feel, what this film has done for me as a Ghostbusters fan, as a movie fan, and just what it has done is just I'm fully charged with positive mood slime right now. The cat isn't, but I am. What, you don't want to sit here? You're just going to you're going to put a hole in my shirt. Unbelievable. Where are you going? Where are you going? There, you're going there. What a dick. Right, yes, going to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for listening to this, if you are still listening to this. I'm sure I had a lot more to cover. I'm very conscious about how much I've rambled on already. So maybe if we ever talk online, chances are I have a lot more thoughts about it at a later point. But for now, yeah, I think I will draw this to a close. So yeah, one line review. Freaking loved it. There we go. There we go. Should have just said that at the beginning, called it a day. Got a lot more clicks. Yeah, all good. All good. Gonna say goodbye. Thank you very much for watching this. If you did like this video, as podcast tells you to do, click like and subscribe. Did I get that right? Yeah. So until next time, all I'm going to say is go out and watch this film. If you have already watched this film, go out and watch it again. Watch it again. Get a new film greenlit. Let's get a new announcement by Ghostbusters Day this year. I want a part 5, a capper to this new trilogy. Let's do it. Put your money in your pockets. Get your voices heard. Enjoy. Bye bye.